here as well. And I love working with Soulpreneurs. I work with founders from all around the world. I'm pretty industry agnostic. I've worked with founders who are making their first 100,000 up to founders making $100 million. And I just love Soulpreneurs because they're just gorgeous, wonderful, awesome human beings who want to make a difference and be in service. So I'm really happy to be here and show you how to continue being wonderful, awesome individuals in service, but making money at the same time. Because you need to, you
Absolutely.
deserve to.
Yeah. So tell me a bit about, so you've I think in your LinkedIn profile, it says that you've been in this field for about 30 years or so. And so you have a sweet spot of working with certain demographics of people. And from what I understand, when people have hit a bit of a glass ceiling, so to speak, you have the vision to come in there and really turn things around. So what do you really look for in working with people? Give me an insight into what you look at as an analyst or strategist.
Yeah. So my avatar, and I talk about avatar, and hopefully everyone who's listening is thinking, what does she even mean? Or they're like, yep, I have an avatar as well. So an avatar is who's your ideal customer? Like, if you could describe them. So an ideal customer for me is a founder, so somebody who owns their own business, and their business is doing between 2 and 20 million turnover, dollars, pounds, doesn't really matter where you are. And they're looking for fast growth, or they're looking to exit their business. So maybe in 3 years' time, they actually want to exit and sell. But they're looking for a fast growth model that's going to make that really attractive for when they do exit, or fast growth because they're looking to make more of a difference in the world. And my expertise is in the right strategies for the sales, marketing, and partnerships, which fundamentally are the things that kind of create the revenue growth and the profit growth. But I also help out with other things like, how do you get the right people? What's the right structures you should have? What's the right culture you should have? And then I work with a lot of soulpreneurs as well, just because I really, really enjoy working with them. I'm actually related to a soulpreneur, and I've been her business mentor for some time. Her name's Ariella Indigo, and she's actually my niece. Weirdly, it's not weird, but my half sister married her father, so she's technically my niece, and we've been great friends for years, ever since we met at my sister's wedding. And I've been her business mentor. And I remember, she was living in a caravan just outside Glastonbury. She'd left her corporate job. She knew she'd had this calling to become a soulpreneur, but didn't know what that was. And she reached out to me and said, help me. And we got her to her first £1 million of turnover within 24 months. So I love working with soulpreneurs, and she brings me in to work with her community and to work with soulpreneurs within her community as well. And I don't know if you know this, Ben, but I'm pretty spiritual as well. So I don't do any of these things in terms of how I make my money. I make my money working with business owners, right? But I'm a Reiki healer. I'm a Seikим healer. I'm trained Sinchi therapist. I do angel cards, tarot cards, clairvoyant. So I consider myself very spiritual. Well, pretty spiritual, not very spiritual. I live my life with a spiritual mindset. And I certainly run my businesses and use my intuition in everything. And I often bring it in, even with the founders who are 2 to 20 million. I get them to decode their blueprints. I get them, I was talking with a really, really, really very, very professional individual this week. And I was explaining Mercury retrograde and why things weren't working. And then how all of a sudden they just opened up for him on Friday. So yeah. So I do bring that a lot into my business as well, which is why I really resonate with the soulpreneurs. But I'm not as experienced as you guys are, but I can relate.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Well, a big question on my mind and heart is that why do you think there is this money block and resistance for people? There's a classic money story that I shouldn't be charging for this service. Where do you think that comes from, and what do you think the solution to that is? Because we see that so often.
Yeah, I can't answer where it comes from because I don't actually know the answer to that. But I would say it's the most common denominating conversation I have with every soulpreneur. And they might not say that out loud, But when I ask them about how they charge pennies for their service. And they charge way less than anybody else out there's charging. And they're embarrassed to charge. And I'll say, I want you to double your fees. And they'll look at me with absolute horror. And then I'll show them other people who are out there doing that. And they're like, what? So I'm not sure where it comes from. And, maybe you know that better. And I know certainly from working with Ariella that a lot of people are coded with a scarcity mindset. So their codes actually create a real scarcity mindset. So it's actually a major life lesson a lot of soulpreneurs seem to have to go through. That's the best way I can explain where does it come from. But in terms of, how it shows up, I see a lot of soulpreneurs building from their heart and their intuition, which is a really good thing to do, right? So it's not a criticism. So they're building from their heart, they're building from their intuition, and they have a deep, deep, deep rooted desire to be in service, to change the world, to make the world a better place, to do something purposeful and good, which I'm a massive fan of. And I also have that desire, right? I wake up every morning with a similar desire to do something purposeful, to do something that makes a difference in the world. I don't have the problem charging for it, right? And charging quite significant fees for it as well. And I think the challenge with just focusing on the heart and the intuition, there's this thing up here as well, right? So when these two things work in unison really well together, it brings a great balance. And if you don't have a structure, it's very, very challenging. So even when you have a deep calling, even when, whatever, a higher being, whoever it is that's giving you that calling, your own self, where it's coming from, there still needs to be a container. There still needs to be a way to build something. And I think some soulpreneurs mix up the difference between being in service and actually self-sacrificing, just giving too much themselves. And this is also why I see so many soulpreneurs being exhausted. And they'll get on a call with me and I'll be like, okay, what have you done this week? And they're like, I didn't do anything this week. I was exhausted. I got sick. I had challenges. And I'm like, really? Like, what happened? And their energy levels are so low because they've been giving and not receiving, but also not protecting themselves when they're doing all of that giving, right? So that happens as well. And I think, there's a real shame for soulpreneurs around being visible, being seen. Like you want to call with me just this week, we are with a group of soulpreneurs. I'm like, get yourself on TikTok. They're all panicking. No, what am I going to say? What could I say that's of value? I mean, you and I even had this conversation, right? What could I say that's of value that anyone's going to listen? And I'm like, Ben, you've got so much value to share. Like, it's unreal. And now you're out there sharing it. And I know it still doesn't feel super comfortable for you, but you're being visible. And so I think a lot of soulpreneurs think that there's some kind of shame, fear. They don't have something that's good enough. And maybe there's a conditioning from the spiritual community, because I don't know where it comes from, but maybe from the spiritual community, there's a conditioning that being, the money's dirty, like money and spirituality don't mix, like you should just be in service. So there's almost an expectation that we just need to be out there doing things and being good people in the world. So I think without having a commercial clarity, without having a structure or a container, we just end up being reactive instead of intentional. So it needs a structure. And everything that I teach in my programs is around building that structure, having that clarity. And and it's really tough for soulpreneurs. I mean, it's tough for non-soulpreneurs as well, actually, when I go through this, but particularly soulpreneurs find it very difficult because their desire for freedom means that they feel that the structure is taking away their freedom. And I remember we had that conversation. So, you've been working with structure now for this last kind of couple of months, and you were a bit like, oh, but if I do this, I lose that. And actually, the reality is quite different. What happens is all of a sudden the abundance comes in, which actually provides you with more freedom. So yeah, I think a lot of it is these beliefs and this kind of cultural behavior. Maybe, does that make sense?
It does, yeah. And something that I learned really landed and really helped me get to a point where I could charge what I wanted to charge was, if I'm financially abundant, it means that therefore I can give from the overflow, and I am in a position where if people are very short of money, I do 1 or 2 sessions a month. I offer a discounted version for someone who's on benefits, for example. So, it's been a rhythm of about one a month because I'm being rewarded
Nice.
from, lots of other clients that can support me. But if that was everybody, I'd definitely feel some burnout. I'd feel some like unjust,
Right.
you know,
Exactly. Yeah.
and so that doesn't feel I think it's a subconscious, like, I think people giving from an empty cup will regret that on a
Hmm.
deep subconscious, like shadowy level.
Yes.
And I know that like discernment to have clearer boundaries, so that I feel when I do say yes, it is a full on yes, not
Yeah.
a begrudging, oh, well, okay, I've said that and I really don't mean it. And I think that's something really important for people to
It is
start
important.
to discern.
Yeah, because when you give your service to somebody, right, and particularly yours is a hands-on service, right? So you're physically touching people's bodies, you're entering their aura, you're entering their personal space. If you're not feeling that that's a super great exchange of energy, it's also going to make it fairly challenging for you to be a really effective
Mm,
channel. Like there's going to be something that you're holding back. There's going to be some gap between you and your client as well. Like it's almost impossible. The other really interesting irony around that, because there's a few ironies here, but the other interesting irony is I meet so many soulpreneurs who say, I've got this global vision. My soul's purpose is to change the world. And I'm like, wow, awesome. I'm big down for global purposes, right? I live for
mm,
that. And I say, well, how are you going to do that if you don't make any money? And they're like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, because if you don't make money, you're not going to be able to hire a team. You're not going to be able to do ads. You're not going to be able to create resources. Oh, right. I
mhm.
hadn't thought of that. Like you're not going to be able to actually get out there. You're not going to be able to get on a plane and go to somewhere because you're not going to have any money to do it. You're not going to be able to pay
Yeah.
your mortgage. So this irony of I've got this global message, I've got this global vision, but I can't go out there and do it because I don't actually have resources. Money is the major resource that we all need in order to actually grow our businesses. And that's
Exactly.
every founder, not just soulpreneurs. Every founder I speak to, there's got to be cash flow, there's got to be money in the coffers in order to grow the business. And this, speculate to accumulate. That's not what I'm talking about, but everyone understands what that means, right? You've got to
Mm,
be able to put in order to get out. So yes, there's the great irony of not having money, which actually prevents you from being who you actually truly believe you should be. And maybe
mm,
with some soulpreneurs, when I challenge them on that, they actually admit to the fact that they're quite fearful. They're actually, and this comes back to the visibility thing. I'm actually fearful of being seen. I'm actually fearful of being fully in service. Like I know I've got this global mission, but it terrifies me. And then I'm like, well, let's just take some steps. Let's just get 5 clients. Let's just get our first client. Let's just get our first 10
mm.
clients. And all of these things are about having a structure and having a cadence and a rhythm, which is
Mm.
all that I teach in the program.
Absolutely. So I think this could be a good sort of segue then to um, like the positives. We looked at, what people are challenged with and what their blocks are. What do you see that a typical, someone that's getting things right, a soulpreneur in particular, what kind of things are they doing? What kind of mindset do they have? What things are you thinking, yeah, this guy's or girl or person's got it down, they're really doing well.
Well, let's talk about
Yeah, give
you,
us a
right? If that's not too
right,
embarrassing
okay,
or awkward, let's talk
sure.
about you because there's some things I've really noticed in the last couple of months working with you, right? So, and the first one is your mindset, right? So there's a mindset that somebody has who's willing to actually go through this process, which is okay. It's not working for me right now, and I believe there's a way that it could work. And whilst I don't feel comfortable about what you're saying, I'm willing to trust you enough because you have built successful businesses that I'm willing to give it a go. And there's something about working with you where you'll be like, well, Michelle, I haven't fully understood all that. I'm going to go back and watch the recording. I'm going to integrate that. And then I'm going to come back to you with questions. And so you never say to me, no, it's not possible. No, I've tried it before. No, it's terrible. No, it's bad juju, or, it's not going to land. You go, maybe it's possible because you're actually telling me that you've seen someone else who's done it or you've done it yourself. So there's definitely this thing around mindset. And I think, like with yourself, like your business, you treat your business as your life's purpose, right?
Mm,
Every time you talk about it, like you light up about the difference that you're making, what you're doing with your clients, how you're supporting them, what you're doing with the therapists who are coming into the full body alchemy program. And so it's not just a passion project. It's not like a little side hustle. Like you were out there actually wanting to make a real difference. Then there's this real sense of clarity. So when we first started talking about the full body alchemy method, like you said, well, I'm working with clients, doing my hands-on, never really thought about doing a train the trainer, never really thought about how I could actually teach people what I'm doing. And I said, well, what if you could? And you were like, well, I don't know what that looked like. And so we went through a process of, well, who would that avatar be? Well, it would be a therapist. It would be somebody who actually wants to learn about, handling boundaries, dealing with trauma. It's somebody who really wants to understand how to open up this relationship in a completely different way. It's somebody who actually wants to learn how to make money from it. And we started talking about this, and I asked you to go away and turn this into a document for me. And you were like, what, really? It's all in my head. I'm like, I want you to put it into a document, get it on paper. And you came back, and there was a few iterations that we had, right? But we got to sort of week 2 or week 3 where you had that clarity. And you said, this is exactly the kind of person I'm looking for. And once you knew the kind of person you were looking for, it meant you could create messaging which was able to attract them. So once you know who your avatar is, you can go out and actually, because you know what their challenges are, you can actually start marketing to them. You can actually start finding ways of connecting with them and having conversations. So clarity is really, really important. The thing that I've loved about what you've done is consistency. And this is really important as well. So, I said to you about doing your posting, and even when you went off on your 2-week break to Egypt, you were still posting every day. And I remember saying, well, how are you doing that while you're in Egypt, like sitting in some pyramid? And you said, I got it all set up in advance. I got my PA doing it. I had it all planned. So there's this consistency. And so people who are really focused at this, they show up, they know that rhythm is really important. And it's not just a burst of inspiration. It's not just I'm feeling excited today, I better do a post, or I just got a download, so I'm going to share it. It's like every day showing up for your community and being there to connect with them and finding a way to add value from them. But also having boundaries. So working within your own capabilities and abilities, not because you're feeling obligated to the point where you do burn out, but having those boundaries in place. And I think people who are consistent and understand rhythm, they also understand seasonality. And so there's a spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And in the same way we have spring, summer, autumn, winter, whichever hemisphere we're in. Well, actually, some of us don't. Some of us just have perpetual particular types. But here in the UK, we have a spring, summer, autumn, winter. And there's a time for planting. So there's a time for coming up with new ideas. There's a time for really nurturing and taking care of. There's a time for harvesting, and there's a time for holding and making sure we've got enough to last us through. Businesses also go through those seasonalities. They go through spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So understanding that rhythm and making sure it's not always everything happening at the same time, and being able to recognize that is really important. And then I think, one of the biggest things is they invest in their own growth. Like they go out and seek mentors. They seek people who can support them. They look for people who are already doing what they want to do, and say, show me the way. Like this call here, they're coming to these calls. The people who are on this call tonight are already saying, well, I want to know how to do this. I want to learn this. I want to understand it. And maybe they're challenged by some of the things I'm saying. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're like, this is making sense. I'm just not happy about it. Or actually, there's a real point here. But they're investing in that time, and they're taking time out, and they're working with people who can hold them accountable. And these are all things you've been doing, right? And this idea of sustainability, it's not sexy, it's not super creative, but it's exactly what gives your magic longevity. And that's a really, really important point for all my soulpreneurs. It's what gives your magic longevity, sustainability. So if it's not something you're excited, I had a conversation with a soulpreneur the other day, and we spent an hour just talking about freedom. Everything I said to her, she said, she wasn't using these exact words, but she was pushing back and saying it takes away my freedom. And I said, what freedom do you actually have? You're not making any money right now. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. Like this idea of perceived freedom, you have free time. That's what you have. You don't have freedom. And so understanding the difference, like you, Ben, you said, I'm off to Egypt for 2 weeks because I've made enough money that I can do this now and I can still run my business. And hey ho, next year, the world's your oyster. I'm excited to see where you do go and what does happen. Do you want to add anything to what I said there? Because you've been kind of going through all this yourself.
Well, I just want to, before I go back and reflect a few of those things, what do you mean by sustainability? Can you go into that term a little bit more? Because you said that this woman was like, okay.
Sustainability means you can continue it. and you can carry on doing it. So this idea that you can make an amount of money in a period of time, there's this idea that, you know, we can make money because we're in this period, or because, you know, the moons are aligned in a particular way. Yes, I do agree with that. Like, I agree that now we're out of retrograde, things are going to be a lot easier, but it doesn't stop you making money. If you continue with those systems, those processes, that rhythm, it makes your business sustainable. Now, you know, once you've launched your first promotion and run it, which is what we're going to walk everyone through on the business module. We're going to show them how to do an actual promotion plan, show them how to make their first £20,000, right? Like, they're going to be like, oh my God. Once they know how to make their first £20,000, they can rinse and repeat it. They'll just get, and they'll be like, okay, now I can make £20,000. Here's how to make another £20,000, but this time I can make a second £20,000. So I can go in quarter one and make 20. In quarter two, I can make 40. In quarter three, I can make 60 or maybe 80. And so we're going to show them how that sustainability creates the longevity. Instead of going, well, you know, one week I make $5,000. The next week I make jack shit. The next week I might be lucky to make £400. That's not sustainable. Right. And that's what makes it so challenging for my soulpreneur friends and other founders. This isn't just exclusive to the soulpreneur community. But that's what makes life really difficult, is when we don't see that sustainability.
There we go. So that threads quite nicely into the reflection of working with you. Is you have these models and systems and blueprints that are repeatable. You know, you've done it countless times already. So who am I to say that they don't work? Like, you're the common denominator in that success. It's not, you know, and I need to apply myself to these models. If they don't make sense yet, then they will do by trial and error, you know, and I'm willing to go the distance to do it wrong and learn through, you know, not quite getting it right. And that's really healthy, I find. I think that's healthy leadership as well.
It's very healthy leadership. I love how you do that. It's extremely sovereign, right? And we're moving into this era of people having this sovereign leadership. And that's like, you'll show up and you'll be like, not sure what it is, not sure what you really mean, but I'm going to give it a go. And you'll come back and say, I tried it. This bit worked. This bit didn't work. And we'll look at it and I'll go, well, that's because you did this bit, but you didn't do this bit. Oh, okay. Well, let's try it again. And so every time you do something, you get a result, but every time you improve. And by the way, that never stops, Ben. That never stops. So, you know, here I am. I've been running promotion plans for 20 years, right? My first promotion plan, I made £10,000 in 1 quarter, right? That was all I made.
Okay.
I've run promotion plans that have made $1 million in a quarter. Now, you have to keep being consistent and keep doing it. But every time I'm learning, every single time, because the speed at which the world's changing is phenomenal.
Yeah.
It used to be that a marketing technique I could teach you, you could use it for a year or 2 years. Now you're lucky if you can use it for 13 weeks before it's changed. Right. AI, the speed of everything that's transforming. So this, and it kind of comes back to the question about, you know, what's the differentiation for those who are successful? They're constantly focusing at either earning or learning. And
earning or learning,
right? And we talk about this, right? In my program, we're either earning or we're learning. And as long as we're doing one, I'm happy. If we're doing neither, then we've sat still and we've done nothing in that week. And this means you've either earned some money and you can say to me, oh, I got a client, and then tell me what happened. Or you can say, I did these 3 things and, you know, I tried it. I gave it my best shot, but I've realized if I'd done it this way, it would have worked better. And of course, the best week is when you tell me that you're earning and you're learning. I got a new client and I learned this about how to do it. And that's my favorite kind of week. But I think that's another mindset shift that happens with the folks who have this ability to build sustainable businesses.
And that brings it back to another point that you said earlier on, the mentorship, because otherwise you don't have the vision, or at least the reflection, just someone to talk to reflect. You know, sometimes you can figure it out yourself, but more than likely, if you've got somebody who has walked it a million times already, they know exactly where you're at and give you some great pointers to sort of, you know, steer the ship and make it more accurate next time. So that's what I really appreciate.
You wouldn't want to learn how to do a full body massage from someone who's never done it before, or someone who's just
Yeah.
gotten started, right? So this is what this is what's great about the program that we're going to be doing together is, they've got you as the mentor in terms of like, how do they actually learn the methodology? How do they understand, how they deal with the consent and barriers and trauma and all those things? And then they've got someone like me, and I know we've got other experts as well, but someone like me who can say, well, here's how you actually turn this into a business that makes money. And I have mentors. I make sure I've always got mentors, and I'm looking for mentors always who've built bigger, more successful businesses than I have. So you should always be looking for someone who's at the next level to you, rather than somebody who's been to business school perhaps, or, done some business training, or is a business coach. Not there's anything wrong with those guys, but always ask them, like, what's your credentials? Tell me about the business that you grew. Tell me about how you grew that business. Because it's one thing to understand the kind of theory behind it. It's another thing to say, well, if I get to this position and things go wrong, can you walk me through it? Can you tell me how to recover? Can you tell me how to when it doesn't go right? And so you should be looking for a really good mentor to learn the hands-on technique. You should be looking for a good mentor to learn how to do the business. And if it's not Ben and I, that's fine. If you've just enjoyed being on our call, great. If it's not us, find someone else, like find yourself another community where you can tap into someone that's going to give you that mentorship. Super important.
Yeah. That's what I'm finding at this stage is not just building a direct team, but having a network of peers and support in lots of different fields. You've been a great ally so far, and I'm making other allies in trauma-informed care, in like embodiment, in it's just great to have people on the same team.
Yeah.
And it just feels so supportive for me. I used to feel a bit alone and just out there and a bit misunderstood, but the more people you acquire on your team in this sort of group, that's what I want to bring into this system, into the Full Body Alchemy, is this sense of community. And if you want to dive deeper, then guess what? Michelle can take your business even further than what we can through this program. Just get in touch with her. Or, you want to learn a bit more about Qigong and Taoist sexual alchemy, I can either teach you myself, or I can put you in touch with all my peers in that. I really feel like this is like the next level of, I think we've done now with a guru, and you're listening to this one person that has all the answers. I don't want to be that person. I want to empower people to make their own, dreams come true by navigating the things that they want to navigate, and support them fully through that version of themselves that they want to be. So, yeah. And it's kind of a little bit of from what your program is as well. One part of the program is to bring about, what do you call it? It's like a forum or something, is it? When you're bringing in experts to do like what's his name? Jeff's doing it right now.
Oh, he's doing a summit. Yeah.
Summit.
So he's bringing in experts to run a summit. So yeah, a summit. I mean, there's multiple ways that you can grow your business. And I talk about routes to market. I'm probably not gonna have time to get into that today, but I talk about routes to market, which is basically, how do you find your people that want to buy from you? Right. And most soulpreneurs are like, well, I don't know how to do that. So I'm sitting around hoping the universe is going to send them to me, because I'm, being in service, and the universe should support me. And it can, to a certain extent, but it's probably not giving you the growth and speed of traction that you're looking for. So the universe is still expecting you to go do your part. And it's expecting you to find these people. So we put these routes to market in, and one route to market is to do a summit. So I've got a couple of soulpreneurs who are doing summits right now, where they don't have their own audience. And they're like, how do I build an audience, Michelle? And I'm like, go partner up. So go find some awesome experts like you've done, right? You got some really cool experts coming in. Go partner up, find some cool experts, put a summit on, tell them you're going to get 500 people on your summit, even though you don't know how to, and then ask them to mail out to their list about the summit, right? And guess what? They mail out saying, I'm speaking on Ben's summit. And people are like, oh, this is interesting. And they go because the person speaking, who they really respect, right? Next thing, they're registering for your summit. You've now got their details too. So you get like these summits, they're multi-speaker summits. There's maybe 6-7 people speaking on them. And it's an instant audience for you, instant audience.
Mm.
You get, you have your free gift that you're going to give to them, or you get them to take your quiz or your assessment test, or you download your template. And then that conversation begins and you start building trust with them. So there's lots and lots of different ways you can do it, but that's just one of them. And yeah, a few of the guys who are going through my program right now are building their own summits, which is kind of cool.
I think that's a great tip for anybody out there that wants to, put some of this into practice.
We should have
And
a
I
full
also
body
want to
summit, by the way.
comment. Sorry again. What was that?
We should do a full body summit. Full body.
We
alchemy
should.
summit.
Yeah, that'll be next for
Okay,
sure.
good.
But I just want to say and comment that this is from like an abundance mindset as well. I think an old paradigm is that, they're my competitors, and therefore, how could they possibly allow us to, be in the same field and offer similar things? Surely we're against each other. Surely there's not enough clients or potential clients around. Let's get rid of that. There is enough clients going around. This is a very expansive field. And I always refer it back to, like, how many coffee shops are there on the street?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And how well are they doing? And fast food, there's no competition there. It's just like people need this stuff, and it's not necessarily down to who's better or worse or more skilled or whatever. Sometimes it's just the resonance. Sometimes like people just tune in more to or pick up with like the way that that person presents, or the terminology or the language, or the values that they have, the light that they're shining, and that feels more resonant than the other person. And that doesn't mean anything against you or against them. No one's better or worse. We're just different, and we will appeal to different people, and we'll translate things in slightly different ways.
Yeah.
So I think just
I
coming
love
to
that.
business from that mindset is like more open and expansive.
And another example, which is different to the kind of cafes on the street, right? Because you could still say, well, they're technically competing. Like, do I go to this one or do I go to that one? They're in a different area. But if you think about the way that car showrooms, car sales work, and all of the car manufacturers know this, right? And the car sales that whenever they have, when there's like a conglomerate of the car showroom, so there's like one area and you've got maybe like 10 or 15 car showrooms all on the same piece of land, all on the same piece.
Yeah.
Those car showrooms vastly outperform individual car showrooms, vastly outperform them. And you'd think that would be completely wrong. You'd be like, you got BMW, you got Mercedes, you got Hyundai, you got Toyota. How can that happen? They're all competing with each other. What happens is the footfall into that area is like 10 times greater. The footfall is greater. So everybody does better. So to your point, like when you've got a multi-speaker summit, even though they might all be speaking about the same similar, they're all bringing an audience with them, but they're all getting a new audience as well. And as you say, people then just go to who they feel most attracted to, but the footfall is vastly increased for everybody who's on the summit.
It's just a win-win, isn't it?
A win-win. I'm a big fan of collaboration, not competition.
Yeah, it makes so much sense. Right, that's what's happening next, Michelle.
Summit. You heard it here first, everyone. We're going to do a summit.
Yeah. But in the mean, I mean, I'm just going to check, see if we've got it feels like really thorough already. Do you want to talk about like being in service to yourself first? Can you unpack that? How that, I kind of have an idea of what you're going to talk about here, and maybe we've touched on it a little bit there, but before. But yeah, can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have sort of touched on it, but being in service to yourself basically means putting yourself first, right? It means that you're fully resourced, and the when you go on the airplane, the air hostess says to you, if there's a shortage of oxygen, the masks are going to drop down before you fit the masks on the infants and children, put your own on. Well, of course you want to help the infants and children and everyone around you, right? But you do that and you're going to run out of oxygen, you're going to go and croak it. If you take 2 seconds to put your own mask on, like 5 seconds maximum, you can go and help the entire plane. So this idea of doing this, and like, because you can't pour from an empty cup, but it really is true. So making sure that you're being in service to yourself, making sure that you are being resourced, that financially you're in a strong position, emotionally you're in a strong position, spiritually, physically you're in a strong position, rest, have those boundaries.
Boundaries.
Look at your pricing, look at the way that you're doing things, and making sure that you are leading from a place of overflow. So yeah, it's really making sure that you're taking care of yourself first, but it comes back to that whole point that we were talking about earlier, right? Which is related to the charging, and to know that that's the right thing to do, so that you can be in a really, really strong space. I mean, look at what you're doing so differently now, like in less than a few months, that you wouldn't have been able to do. You wouldn't have been able to do. Like, it's like, it's amazing to see that transformation, and see how we're now teaching people, globally, about this method, whereas before they physically had to come to your space to actually experience a hands-on session with you, and now people all around the world are going to learn how to do this. Like, I'm just so thrilled the way that this is going.
Me too. Yeah, because it's not just the technique. The technique is phenomenal in its own right, and there's lots of bodywork schools that teach technique, and I'm not knocking them in any shape or form, but what I really want to bring to this program is how to protect your own boundaries, how to, put yourself first, not just like professionally, which is really important. I'm going to get guest speakers on professionalism, how to word your documents, how to get clarity is boundaries, clarity with words, and also energetic hygiene as well, with your own sort of clearing your space, clearing your aura, qigong, energy alchemy. There's so many things within this program that are not spoken about, and because we are dealing with a really sensitive subject, which is people's sensuality and sexuality, like how important it is to have clarity on your own sexual self as well. So there's so many different levels that I'm attending to, uh, kind of in a summit format. It wasn't intentionally like that, but I was kind of inspired by another teacher program that was on earlier in the year called Trauma Training for Tantra Professionals, from Shashi Saluna. And that was amazing because she also had like maybe about 15 different expert teachers all contributing towards her program. And they had their own sort of version of, their history, their things that they found important to bring to this container. And even though it's a similar subject, you glean extra information from those individual people because they have their own perspective. So that's what I wanted to bring to this program, and I'm just super excited. I just can't. I just think that it's amazing as it is at the moment, and I just can't wait to get started.
Me neither.
Yeah,
Bring it on.
yeah. So it's literally a month away.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, it was going to start on the 5th of January.
Wow.
I'm going to be doing a weekly live Q&A and also a delivery or an introduction to the next week's content. Release a bunch of stuff on Kajabi or some kind of format. I'm thinking about Mighty Networks to grow a community aspect to it as well. So that's another aspect that I want to really nurture, is this community, deliver it all on that platform, and then have a review at the end of the week on a Monday night, and keep that going, really focusing on people not just learning it, the information. I want people to practice stuff.
Yeah.
So what is going to help them feel more grounded and stable when they're in a really emotionally charged bodywork session, because a lot of emotions are released and that's transformed into energy. And so I want people to live the practices and really know it from a deep level. So um 12 weeks should be enough. I have maybe an idea that it might be extended at some point, to go extra levels deeper. but yeah, it seems sufficient to do 12 weeks preparation and then a hugely immersive bodywork retreat for a week. Um, and then that will be a transformative experience in its own right. And then not only that, you'll be left with an amazing skill that you can provide for people and have a successful build business through it. So it's just
Would it be helpful if I share a bit about the business training?
that would be great. Yeah. What? Yes.
Yeah, because I think, as Ben said earlier, like, learning the principles, learning the techniques, like, that's a given. Like, everyone's going to learn. And I know Ben is phenomenal at what he does. Like, I have experienced it, so I can tell you he's absolutely phenomenal. And I think learning from him is going to be amazing because he's just got this great way of sharing. What I'm going to be doing is making sure that the business part isn't on top. It's not an addition. It's not a bonus session. It's fully integrated and embodied in this entire program. So it's part of the whole embodiment. So I want to make sure that you guys really understand that. So there's a couple of pillars I'll be teaching. One is, how do you actually turn what you do into an offer? So how do you actually create a package that will honor your energy and create value in a way that people will find attractive? How do you actually find the natural cycle that feels aligned for you so you can have a promotion rhythm and you can understand that? How do you price things? How do you align your numbers with your nervous system so it's not like going to freak you out, but you can actually start charging? And what are the systems and structures that you need to create that business foundation that give you that freedom and not the burnout? And we're going to actually learn how to run an actual promotion. So I'm going to give you the whole principles that Ben's walked through. I've had thousands of entrepreneurs go through, and I use myself all the time, which is, how do you actually run a promotion so that you do make money during that time frame? And it's not a theoretical program, as Ben will tell you. It's a program where you're going to get your hands physically on people's bodies, because you're going to experience that, and you're going to be putting together a promotion plan where clients are going to come your way. So yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing as part of that. Very excited.
Incredible. So I love that. It's not just theory, it's practical, it's embodying, it's doing, it's really going for it. And I am just all over that. I
Yeah.
found, just to reflect a little bit from my personal experience, working in this field and promoting myself in different ways and putting myself out there, it has been an internal process also, because it is a bit niche and it's a little bit left field. It's been a process of me being proud of who I am and what I do and the values that I hold.
Yeah.
So any kind of resistance to showing up and like showing up on online, any kind of resistance to that, the breakthroughs aren't just a business breakthrough. It's actually a personal breakthrough of like standing more and more in your truth
Love
and
that.
more and more who you are. So yeah, I love it how it all
That's so
interweaves like
cool.
this.
I love that for you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So just checking if there's any questions online. It doesn't seem like there's going to be any right now. So I'm gonna have this available for replay. I'm also going to chop it up and put it on. I think there's some absolute gold nuggets in here. So yeah, I'll be sort of looping this back. But I just want to say, Michelle, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I
Okay.
really enjoyed this conversation, and
But
just that additional share there about what you're going to bring to the program is really hot.
awesome. Well, I'm excited for whoever decides to come and work with us. Can't wait to be a part of your journey. And if not, make sure you go find some good mentors, someone else who can be part of your journey. So, and join us for other lives that we do as well.
Amazing. Yes. Thank you so much, Michelle. I'll catch you soon.
Definitely. All right. Bye, everyone.
All right. Bye bye.